Hello, folks. This is your host, Tammy Tuckey, and you are now listening to the Tiara Talk Show. We bring you rare interviews with the makers of Disney magic. Whether they be singers, actors, Imagineers, animators, they have all made their mark on the Disney name. Be sure to check out the show notes, other episodes, contests, our social media pages from Facebook to Twitter, and more on our official website at www.thetiaratalkshow.com. All guest opinions are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the opinions of the Tiara Talk Show or the host. The Tiara Talk Show is not associated with the Disney Company. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. And from all of us here at the Tiara Talk Show, have a hoop-de-doo day. I'm excited to welcome this week's Tiara Talk Show guest, composer Mark Mancina, to the show. Welcome, Mark.
Hi.
It's great to have you.
We are.
It's so great to have you on the show because this is our Halloween week that we're celebrating with. And I think last year we spoke to a lot of the Haunted Mansion film cast members. So this is great to be speaking with you today because you were the composer to the film. But I thought we'd talk a little bit about your beginnings with music, especially because some of your first pieces of work for Disney included Man of the House with Chevy Chase in 95 and then Con Air in 97. So, you've been involved with a lot of films that deal with comedy and drama. So what was the inspiration to go into that field of work?
Yeah, well, I have a really good track record with Disney, but before Man of the House, I did The Lion King, and that was producing and working all those songs. Kind of turned things around for me because at the same year that we did that movie, I did a movie called Speed, and Speed was an action thriller movie that sort of broke Sandra Bullock and it certainly broke my career too, because the style of music that I was writing for that movie, people really liked it, so a lot of people latched on to that style of action movie, and that sort of became sort of the sound of action movies for quite a long time, in my opinion. But The Haunted Mansion was a chance to work with Rob Minkoff, and Rob had directed The Lion King, so that's how we knew each other. And that's really kind of what got me interested in doing it, is that he was directing it.
What was the creative development initially with Rob? How did you guys work around that story and how you wanted it to sound?
Well, the first thing is that we really everybody loved, and I grew up with it, the themes in The Haunted Mansion attraction. And the guy's name just went right out of my head, the composer.
Was it Buddy Baker?
Yes, of course. And he wrote these great themes, and I was really excited because Rob really wanted to make sure that we used sort of the main theme to the Haunted Mansion attraction, that I worked it into the score. And I really wanted to do that. That was fun for me because I love the theme, but it was also just really fun to play around with it and do different things with it and use it in different spots and this and that. But besides that theme, it's a very, very big score. It's a very rich, big score. It's got choir, it's got pipe organ, it's got harpsichord, it's got a full orchestra. It's quite involved. It's sort of in many senses, a traditional orchestration, being that it's not just an orchestra and added to a bunch of other things. It's actually centered around a lot of instruments that are sort of classical instruments. So it was really fun, and the choir was a big element of the score, especially if you listen to the end. The last 10 minutes of the movie. There's a lot of choral work in that, and that took a lot of preparing for it. And I worked with my orchestrator, Dave Metzger, and he's always great. And, he did these brilliant charts. But it took quite a bit of time to record. I do remember that. We also, we recorded that at Sony, which is my absolute favorite scoring stage to work at. I just think everything that I've ever done that came out of there, to me, always sounds really, really great. And Rob is such a music guy. He's so supportive of music, that he was all for it. He supported the budget for it, and we were able to do it correctly and make it sound really great.
So this seems like a different type of project to handle with because, sometimes I think a lot of composers do say that the film is made, of course, and it's edited together, and then you get to see segments and then write music accordingly. But were you just working on the music while they were filming? Like, did you get to go on set and see what exactly the theme and the setting and the tone was going to be to get that sense of what you were going to record?
Yeah, nothing really, when you write for film, nothing really motivates you more than sitting and watching the film that you're going to score. You know what I mean? But that being said, some of my scores that I've done that I still really think are very strong scores, and this one's included. I did go to the set. I did visit the set. I met some of the actors. I was there when they were filming some of it, and it does help. I did that. I actually did that when I did the film Twister. They flew me out to the Midwest somewhere, and I was watching them blow a truck across the road and all this crazy stuff going on. But it really kind of started to give me ideas and a flavor of what was coming.
I have to ask, what was it like to walk around that set? Because they went all out. Nathaniel was talking about his office, Master Gracie's section of the actual house, and it was so beautifully done, and you had the couch from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in that on that set.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was like,
right.
The pictures. I see the pictures, the high def pictures, and I'm like, oh, I would have adored if they kept that set.
I know, it was really beautiful. I mean, I went. Don Hahn was the producer of the film, and Don did The Lion King. Don produced The Lion King, so we knew each other from that, and Rob was the director, so it was kind of like putting the band back together a little bit, but they had me come down to LA where the set was and walk through it, and it was amazing. I mean, the crypt was amazing, and as you said, that living room was pretty spectacular. And the colors were really rich too. That was another thing that I really liked about that movie. I thought it was a really colorful looking film.
You pay a wonderful tribute in the film to the singing busts. I think I remember a lot of squealing in the theater when we got to see them. Everybody, that's like one of those things that you remember from the graveyard scene. So I remember reading trivia that you guys, I think you hired some of the performers from the Disneyland theme parks. Usually they have like a quartet that sings a lot of the time. So was that the case, or?
Yeah, that was the case, and I'll tell you a funny story. Well, you might think it's funny. I thought it was bizarre, but anyways, I had we brought those guys in, and I told the director and the producer before they came in. I said, that kind of a quartet is not my favorite music. I mean, it almost kind of irritates me in a way. The sort of barbershop thing, but I know it's going to work for the film, and I know it's the right thing to do for the statues, but it's just not my favorite thing. So that's all I said, and then we recorded these guys, right? But I had to go to the bathroom at a certain point, and I went into the bathroom, and I went into the stall, and as soon as I sat down, the barbershop quartet had been told that I didn't like barbershop quartets, and so they came into the bathroom and waited till I sat down on my toilet, and then started singing at full bore and just scared me right out of my seat, And of course, the producer and the director were standing there when I came running out, of the bathroom, and they were just laughing in hysterics because they just thought that it would be my worst nightmare. And I still, to this day, if I go into a bathroom and close the stall, I think about that moment. So there you go.
Well, where are you going to get treated so well in a bathroom? This is high praise.
I guess so. It was funny at the premiere of Haunted Mansion. Those guys were there, and they were walking around, and they would like sing your name, or they'd sing my name. They'd point at you, and they go, "There's Mark Mancina, Mark Mancina, Mark Mancina," and they do like a little harmony thing, and it was pretty funny. So it was just kind of a running joke, but they were really good. They did a great job.
Now, was there any discussion of incorporating your score in the attraction? Because the attraction had an update maybe like 4 years later, and honestly, I know a lot of people are they're very protective of the Haunted Mansion. I completely understand, but I really do believe that your work is completely worthy of being featured in the attraction or around it. You know what I mean? Because I know Pirates, that's what they did. They incorporated some of the themes when Jack Sparrow was added. You know what I mean? So was there any discussion?
No, there wasn't, and I'll tell you why. the Haunted Mansion wasn't a hit movie, and Pirates was a hit movie, and so in the film world, all that matters is if it makes money or not, and everything's based on how much money it makes. So they weren't really interested in my score. In fact, I've never really even talked to anybody about that score, because the movie, when it came out, it wasn't really well received, and everybody was expecting it to be this whole franchise of doing Disney attractions and making them into films, and it just didn't really do that well. And so that's just kind of like, that's that, and then you just go on to the next. It's kind of the way it works in the film world. So unfortunately, I didn't get to have any of those themes in the Haunted Mansion, but I do have themes running in Disneyland. I mean, I have stuff in the treehouse in Tarzan that's from my score, and I have I've written some things for Disney in Tokyo, and I've done some stuff with them, so it's always really fun. But it would have been neat to have something from the Haunted Mansion, my score, to be in the Haunted Mansion. That would have been pretty cool. And
since you mentioned Tarzan, we'll have to talk about that, because for a while, again, at Walt Disney World, they had a special concert called Tarzan Rocks. Did you ever see this? Or
I did, yeah. Yeah, Tarzan Rocks was kind of, Tarzan originally was me and Phil Collins. So Phil Collins had written some songs, and I came into the project, and I took the songs and I sort of arranged them and produced them to fit into this sort of backdrop of the Tarzan story. And then I wrote the score, and with Dave Metzger doing all of the orchestration on both the songs and the score. And it was really, really great. I think it turned out really great. It was a great collaboration. But it spawned a lot of Tarzan things. It spawned a Tarzan 2 direct-to-video, which Dave Metzger scored. And it spawned the Tarzan Rocks show, which they took music from mine, but I think that Don Harper ended up writing that, I believe. So yeah, it's been interesting with Disney, because I've had such a great relationship with them. I don't work for them, but I've worked with them. In fact, if you see any Disney movie, the castle logo at the beginning, before we go into When You Wish Upon a Star, is my music. And I kind of put that logo together. I was asked to write something and then include When You Wish Upon a Star. So every Disney movie has that at the beginning. So it's kind of it's like a nice little signature to have. I had a really great relationship at Disney with a gentleman named Chris Montan. Chris was the head of music for Disney and did all these successful movies going back to Beauty and the Beast. And he's just an amazing guy. And he really always believed in me. And when they needed a logo, he really had no idea what they wanted. He just said, listen, Mark, why don't you write, 2 or 3 different ones? And so I actually did 2 or 3. I did at least 3 or 4 based on all sorts of Disney stuff. Like one of them was based on Circle of Life, and one of them was based on an Alan Menken track. I can't remember the name of the song right now, but it was great. So we tried all these different Disney classics that we all know, like Beauty and the Beast. And but it came back to When You Wish Upon a Star. I mean, when you hear that theme, it just makes you want to sit on your couch and watch a Disney movie. It just does that somehow. But I really like the setup of it when you're going over the river and I wrote that setup to set up that theme, and I just really like it. I think it's really pretty, and it just kind of makes me feel good that it's out there.
And I hope you don't mind me going back to the choir portion, because, again, I really love hearing it in the Haunted Mansion, but another soundtrack I feel is entirely underrated is the Brother Bear soundtrack. I remember when they were promoting this, again, at Walt Disney World at the studios. This was the last animated film that I remember they were actually animating at the animation studio there. And they gave us like sneak peeks of the film. We heard this music and we went, what in the world is this? Excited for it, of course. You know what I mean? And oh gosh, again, another collaboration with Phil Collins. So what was a little bit different about this one as opposed to Tarzan? What
was different about it was that Phil at that time when we did Tarzan, he was really excited about what I was doing. Like, he was really into the score of Tarzan. So when I recorded the score, he played drums on the score, which was really cool. And I got to play bass and stuff on his song. So we really collaborated. But when Brother Bear came along, actually they had asked Phil. Phil really wanted to score it himself. He wanted to write the film score himself. And I think that Disney felt that, you know what, he really doesn't have those chops, but he could learn a lot from Mark, and they get along well. So if we hire Mark and Phil to sort of co-score the whole thing together, you know, what will we get with that? And that basically what we did was, it was basically Dave Metzger and me and Phil Collins, and we kind of pooled our talents and put the score together. And you know, Phil sat down with scenes and learned how to sequence ideas and put ideas together. And you know, he was really there. You know, he was hands-on. He wasn't somebody who just mailed it in. He was there. It was fun, but it made it kind of complicated. It made it a little bit more difficult. But the vocal thing, that was my idea. I hired this guy named Eddie Jobson, who is a composer and a conductor, and he had worked with the Bulgarian women's choir in Bulgaria. And I thought, what if we took Inuit, which is the language, ancient language of that Pacific Northwest, and what if we took Phil Collins' music and translated it into Inuit, and then had the Bulgarian women's choir sing it? It's a crazy idea. I remember Chris Montan calling me and saying, okay, Mark, if you want to do this idea, then this is what we have to do. You have to come to Disney. You have to sit at a piano. You have to sit with an Inuit person. You have to sing Phil Collins' lyrics, and then she'll translate them. We'll scribble them down phonetically, and then you'll re-sing it so that Phil can hear what it's going to sound like. And I said, yeah, but we're missing the one layer. We're not going to have the Bulgarian women yet. You know, they're going to go on last, and that's going to change the whole sound of those words. I mean, it's going to be very otherworldly. That's what I was shooting for anyway. So he thought it was cool. So we ended up doing it. And if you listen to the transformation, it's called The Transformation, and it's, of course, where the bear is taken up and is transformed. If you listen to that piece of music, it is basically a Phil Collins melody sung in Inuit by the Bulgarian women's choir. I have a pretty strange career. I'm outside. I don't live in LA, and I kind of come and go, and so I really don't pay much attention. I guess I put a film out, I work on it really hard, I put it out there, and then I just kind of let go of it, and I don't really check in on what people are thinking or about it or anything like that. Like, I have absolutely no concept of Moana, none, because I worked on it for 3 years, and that was the hardest film I've ever been involved in. And I was not only the score composer, but I was also the co-songwriter and co-producer of all the songs and the score. So my plate was so full on that movie. I was so invested in it. But, you know, you have to just put it out there and see what people have to say. You know, I went down to when Moana was coming out, they asked me if I would do a CD signing down in Hollywood. And I was going to be down there anyways to visit my mom. So I said, yeah, I'll do that. I never do those kind of things. So I went to this record store, and I mean, there was a line wrapped around the place. It was pretty remarkable. And I must have had hundreds of CDs to sign for people. So it was fun. It was nice to see that people really do listen to all the work that goes into this music and can hear the difference between, you know, the kind of work that goes into a Disney film or a Disney animation, especially. As compared to, you know, an action movie that, you know, you see constantly pounding music all the time. It's just that there's a finesse to these Disney movies. It takes a lot more time. They give you a lot more time, but it takes a lot more time to do them. And they hopefully will last, as you're saying, they hopefully will last a lot longer because of that. And
also, since you mentioned Moana, we loved the score when we got to see that on the big screen. Again, when I saw your name in the credits, I just went, yep, I'm not surprised. Yep, that was so good. I was like, yep, there you go. So I really commend your work. I think it's amazing, and thank you for being on the show.
Oh, it was my pleasure, and you're very nice. Thank you for having me on it.
And before we end, I have 3 Disney-themed questions I ask each guest. I call them the Fab 3. So we'll start with the Donald one, which is, as a child, what Disney film was one of your favorites to see in the movie theater?
You know, it has to probably be Snow White. I think Snow White had the biggest influence on me.
And our goofy question, what Disney character do you think would be your best friend if you met them in person?
Well, I would hope it would be Belle.
And finally, our Mickey question, if I asked you to name any Disney song at this very moment, what immediately comes to mind?
You know, When You Wish Upon a Star does, because that's the one, you know. There's so many they have such a great musical history. And rich, wonderful songs, great stuff. But that song somehow is just, it just transports me, and it always has since the first time I remember hearing it. It still does the same thing. And
it's great because your music has done that for so many other individuals, especially me.
Oh.
So I'm completely honored to have spoken with you today, and I really do wish you have a happy Halloween. Thank you for joining us for this Halloween episode. I'm so glad we could finally celebrate the Haunted Mansion the way I do think it should be celebrated.
Listen, guys, I'm trying to find a key. I'm trying to find a key.
Where's the key? Where's the key? Where's the beautiful key? Find the key, oh, how happy you'll be.